Hello and welcome everyone to today's Thursday edition of the Xbox Factor podcast. I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and as you can see, I'm wearing the OG classic Atari 2600 t-shirt, one of my favorites, simply because it shows off the traps pretty well. But listen, this is an exciting show for a lot of reasons. He is not here yet. He'll be here momentarily. We do have a new panel member joining us for the first time. You've seen him on many of my podcasts. Cotton McCast has officially joined, of course, the Xbox Factor podcast on Thursdays and making his grand return after a 3-week hiatus with the family on what appeared to be a really awesome vacation. Boxer Bear, our brothers Archimedes, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back, man. It has actually only been 2 weeks that we've been on vacation, but since we went from Thursday to Thursday, I missed 3 shows. Yeah. So, no, I'm glad to be back. The vacation was awesome. Yeah, we were in Italy and it had like 35 degrees plus, so it was really hot. Degrees Celsius. I don't know what's that in Fahrenheit.
Celsius. Yeah. You got it right.
Yeah. No, but it was awesome. Got to relax. Got to play some games actually on my Switch. Yeah,
I dusted the Switch,
bed off. And now I'm happy to be back. And we have a great show aligned. I can't wait for Cotton. It's great to see VJ again, and of course you, Boom. I'm excited for today.
Yeah, well, you know what? Speaking of VJ, the first question I always ask is, have you had your spot of tea? And are you ready to drop those beautiful linguist words on the hundreds of people that are going to turn out for today's show?
Yeah, I try to ignore the hundreds of people. It just gives me goosebumps and makes me fluster my words. But yeah, I've got a cup of tea and my cat's all over me at the moment. So I'm just trying to wrestle with the cat and do the show.
Well, I think you're pretty a proper gent, so I think that's not going to be a problem. But listen, folks, as you can see, before we get into the topics, real quick, just want to say once again, congratulations to Joe Winter for the extremely successful launch of course, Song of Iron. We had Joe on Tuesday's show for a few minutes. You know, obviously he couldn't spend much time because he was launching his game, but it was great to have him on the show. We did give away 10 $25 gift cards so you can go out and buy the game. Obviously, you don't have to buy it, but that was the whole point of the contest. And from what I understand, 6 of the winners did. We are still holding 4 winners that have not gotten in touch with me via email or even of course through DM, and I'll wait for everyone to kind of pile in. We already have 100 people here, which is awesome. And listen, what you see on the screen in front of you is Aliens Fire Team. This game is dope. I am telling you right now, it is well worth the $40. Obviously, you see I'm playing single player. I do have 2 androids that are your co-op buddies, but you can play with 2 other people. This is a great game. This is a really well done game by a almost unknown. I mean, the folks, you're going to see how quick these aliens are. They are. This makes your palms sweaty. If you're a fan of Aliens, you definitely got to get into it. I am playing this. I am playing some Psychonauts. I'm back to playing some Dirt 5. And of course, what has taken over Mr. and Mrs. Boom's life has been Animal Crossing on the Nintendo Switch. Yes, that is right. And this is the only Xbox Factor podcast where you're going to hear some Nintendo slander, or not really slander. I should say it should be compliments, because we're loving it because we're playing together and it's a lot of fun. But VJ, I know that you're fighting with the cat. Hopefully the cat doesn't win live on the air. But what have you been playing? What's been taking up your time in the gaming world?
I just completed Last Stop yesterday.
Oh, nice, dude. Very nice.
I thoroughly enjoyed that game. And I'm also sort of enjoying Narita Boy and obviously Tim's Psychonauts too. I guess, I don't know, I played something really heavy for a considerable. I think it was what was it called? Yakuza Like a Dragon, and I put so many hours into it. So at the moment, it's just some sort of light entertainment, I guess, in terms of what I can dip in and out of quickly and not forget what I'm doing. And I'm kind of doing that, I guess, in lieu of Tales of Arise and Lost Judgment, which both launch later this month.
Yeah, those Lost Judgment seems like it's a game right up your alley, simply because it's now is that a because I have it pre-ordered as well, and I have never played the Judgment series. I have yet, folks, to even dip my toe into Yakuza Like a Dragon. All I have seen and heard is incredible things.
Yeah.
And it's just, what the problem is, folks? It's life. There's just literally not enough time in the day. So, I mean, VJ,
we all deal with that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Especially as gamers.
Yeah, gamers definitely have. I mean, listen, again, obviously last year was Gamers Paradise. Everyone was stuck at home, and all you did was game, and you remained safe. Number one, super important. And of course, you played games, and just as important. But you know what? Let's what have you been playing, Archimedes, outside of the Switch on vacation?
Yeah. Well, on the Switch on occasion, I played Hades and especially the Super Mario 3D collection.
Yeah,
and then I came back. I immediately had a problem. My Xbox broke down during my vacation.
Wow.
I wasn't able to turn it on again. So I had to send it in, and I had that review code for Song of Iron waiting for me. Then I asked Joe, and he was kind enough to whip me up a Steam code then for the game, and then I was able to play through that on Steam. Well, I finished it, made a video review just like you. Fantastic game. I really enjoyed it. Also, again, from my side, congratulations to Joe. It's incredibly hard to launch and develop such a great game on your own, and he did a really great job with that game. Gave it an 8.6. I really like what I played, especially the ending. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I highly encourage everyone to play through the ending because that ending is nuts.
Yeah, it is. It definitely makes you sit back in your chair and say, "Holy F, I cannot believe this actually happened." And obviously, like we talked on Tuesday, it's built as a trilogy.
Yes.
So we do know that he's going to get back to work once the launch is officially done on part 2. Definitely ends on a monster cliffhanger.
Absolutely.
And there are some really important reasons to get back into the game afterwards, specifically what happens at the end.
Yes.
But that's all I want to say. I don't want to ruin it. Again, it's $20. It's available.
Worth every penny.
Yeah, 100%. Worth every
100%.
penny. And especially it just the fact that it's considered by me and many others that it is a love letter to games like Inside and Limbo by Playdead. It has a very intense 2.5D backdrop that gives you, and again, you're playing on a traditional 2D plane, but the forward and back artwork and motion action is just not to be believed. And this was just, you got folks, one dude made this game. And again, awesome. I think it's going to be on a lot of people's lists towards the end of 2021 when we start talking game of the year, top 10, best indie. I mean, I like I said before, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Real quick, Gary Duddle says, I saw Sarabon tweeting about Song of Iron as well. That's dope. See, that is fantastic.
Even Phil Spencer retweeted Joe.
Oh, that's great.
His launch trailer. Yeah, it is awesome. I was just yesterday on another podcast with Joe, the developer of Song of Iron, on the Midweek Mixer podcast.
Yeah.
And we talked about the planned trilogy a little bit. And then he actually teased that he will be developing the second game in the Unreal Engine 5. So I can't wait to play that then. It's going to be awesome.
And what's great is that this was built on Unreal Engine 4, and he did an amazing job.
Yes, he did. It really is a great game. I will definitely do a replay as soon as I get my Xbox back. Yesterday I got the notice from the email from Microsoft that they already sent it back via UPS, so it should arrive tomorrow, hopefully.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
Yes, but you know what, Boom? I realized we often talk about how awesome the ecosystem of Microsoft and the Xbox is, and that Xbox isn't just a console anymore, but you never get to appreciate it unless your console actually breaks down. And you know what? I didn't really care because I just played the games on my PC. Yeah, and I played them on my cell phone in bed. It's really awesome. I just picked up Psychonauts 2, of course. Then playing it on the PC. But man, I have nothing but good things to say about that game. You know, I always consider Double Fine as a AA developer, but I honestly have to say that that's a wrong statement. With Psychonauts 2, they are in the big league. Psychonauts 2 can easily compete with any AAA game out there. That game is a masterpiece when it comes to gameplay mechanics, level design, really the conversations, the writing, the characters, so lovable, so well done. From a technical standpoint, it's so well realized. Yes, it's not a photorealistic game, but the art style is gorgeous, and there is so much diversity in that game.
Yeah.
It runs beautiful. I didn't encounter any bugs, glitches whatsoever. Never had frame drops or anything. No tearing. It is technically extremely well realized, and the diversity in gameplay and the actual gameplay mechanics it's amazing. There's no level that feels repetitive. There's in every level there is something new to encounter, some new gameplay elements. I'm really in love with it, and I haven't finished it yet, but it is really up there when it comes for the Game of the Year discussion. And if that game isn't nominated at the Game Awards, I'm really boycotting them, because that is would be a shame. What they did, what Double Fine did with Psychonauts 2 is simply amazing.
Again, what we have to do, and we're going to actually, you know what, before we get into my spiel about Double Fine, because we do have an entire topic that I wrote specifically for them, and you know we're going to get into it. I don't want to spoil it. You know, I kind of want to open up light because we're still waiting for Cotton. We're waiting for people to kind of file in. We have 179 people here, which is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today and pretty much every day. And
Hello?
So, is it me or is Boom frozen?
I think Boom's frozen, unless I'm frozen.
Okay. But since we are both not frozen, it kind of looks like Boom is frozen.
Yeah.
Let us know in the chat if you can hear us. I hope so. Boom is frozen. Okay. Yeah. I just continue what else I have been playing, because VJ, you love that game. I know it. And I continued with Octopath Traveler. That game is just awesome. I love it. I'm like 60 hours into the game now, and it's just a beautiful game with amazing gameplay elements. I finished like 3 of the 8 characters already now. Going to finish up the other 5. I really love that game. I know, BJ, you are also a fan of Octopath Traveler.
Yeah, I pretty much enjoy all of the Japanese content that's produced. I mean, I was gaming in the 80s and 90s, and at that time the Japanese video game scene was huge, right? There wasn't that many Western developers.
Yeah, basically everything we played there back then was Japanese developed. Yeah,
exactly. And I just find myself even today, 20, 30 years on, gravitating towards everything that comes out from Japan. And you can see the joy, right, in the Xbox community in terms of just even in the chat today, right, the amount of Japanese games and publishers and developers that are being mentioned, I think that Japanese creativity has a real soft spot in everybody's heart, right? Especially if you're a gamer and a gamer that's been gaming for an incredibly long period of time. And that's why I don't know if you know the game Narita Boy. I plugged it in, and it's got all connotations of Buddhism and Japanese architecture, and let alone, you know, the classic Japanese arcade games and the feel, the bombastic feel and the sound. So yeah, I kind of thought, you know, I'll just give this a go because I didn't want to get into anything really, really heavy prior to those two big games launching this month, and I just found myself hooked on it, just as much as Psychonauts 2, which I know you spoke very, very passionately about.
Definitely. Well,
I'm not sure what to do exactly. Should we kick on with the show? Because I don't know where Cotton is, and I think only Boom can.
Yeah, Boom is the only one who can let him in the show.
Yeah. Have you got Twitter open?
I have it, but he didn't answer. I think probably his internet is completely down. So while we are waiting for Boom, let's give him a couple of minutes. Hopefully his internet comes back. Vijay, we are entering the main season of gaming. Which releases are you looking forward to the most?
I kind of have to, because obviously we've talked about time and availability and so on and so forth. I think I go like from month to month, because especially with Game Pass, you don't really know what's around the corner. So like for September, I'll probably into October before Far Cry 6 comes out. I'm kind of going to be, you know, jammed in between Tales of Arise and Lost Judgment. And given the trailers that we've seen so far, I haven't been disappointed. In fact, I'm really quite excited. I think both studios have gone to town really to really expand and make their worlds much more explorable. You know, I mean, given the prettiness of the graphics and the characters and the localization and so on and so forth, especially for Lost Judgment, which will be you know, day one global release, so we don't have to wait 8 months for the game to come out. I think it's really refreshing. And I like the way that Xbox is sort of promoting them right on the store, and even in game, and even with the demo, I think with Tales of Arise. And I just hope that a lot of more people, especially this generation, you know, find that's find, you know, some meaning or something fantastic, right, in an intelligent way, right, in terms of what these games and franchises have to offer.
Yeah.
And you?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, obviously Halo, we have talked about that. Still, even with all the controversy, it's one of my most anticipated games this year. I'm a little torn on Diablo 2 Resurrected, to be honest. I was so excited for the game. Really, Diablo 2, I have so many memories. I played hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours back in the days. And I was really excited that they bring that back. Now, most of the excitement is a little gone, to be honest, with all the controversy around Activision Blizzard. I'm still torn whether to get it or not, but yeah, that's definitely something I want to see how it turns out on the consoles, especially. Yeah, well,
between now and then.
Pardon me?
And between now and Halo?
Yeah, well, then we have Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, coming up. I'm really looking forward to play that. That looks really awesome. Kind of like for Horizon Forbidden West as a Pixar movie. Definitely looking forward to that. Then, of course, Forza Horizon 5 and Far Cry 6.
Yes.
Yeah, Far Cry 6. I'm a big Far Cry fan. And especially now with the 6, it seems that they get back to the setting that and what made Far Cry 3 so great. Yeah, I really like what I've seen so far from the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's this over-the-top action with in a great open world. I can't wait to play that.
I was going to say, Archimedes, if we're wondering if we live in the modern age of abundance, you only have to look at the community and the chat, right? With so many other games that we haven't mentioned that people are looking forward to play. It's amazing to see. I just wanted to sort of ask you. I thought I might as well ask you now with the pink elephant in the room. Should we continue via the show notes, or because it's like almost like 9:20?
Well, let us just kick off the first topic that Boom prepared for the show today.
Sure.
I know he will be back momentarily. He said that in the chat. So yeah, let's just start this show without Boom. Luckily, we have the extensive show notes from Boom, and the first topic we want to talk about is a smaller topic. Boom has asked us to talk about this a little bit because something happened. The lead developer for God of War, Cory Barlog, was posting the other day on Twitter that he got his Series X, that he is excited and that he is waiting for Halo Infinite. And, Boom replied to him, and I quote now the tweet, "Welcome to the Xbox family, Cory. The wait for Halo Infinite is nearly over. I hope to see you out on the battlefield when the next Halo Flighting beta goes live. Big team battle and 4v4 Slayer. Yes, enjoy your new Xbox Series X, dude." Now, here the thing really is, the question that he posed to us, the panel, is, isn't it refreshing to see these the excitement and love for gaming from big developers from other platforms coming towards the Xbox brand? So what are your thoughts, BJ, here?
Mine? I'm a big admirer of Cory. When he was at Sony, when he left Sony, and obviously even more so when he came back to Sony. I think if I kind of look at this holistically, I think all Cory is sort of displaying is how joyful and liberated his intelligence actually is. I think in terms of how Boom sort of formed his sort of corresponding question for the panel exhibits the sort of same energy, i.e. like harmony, compassion and joy, which all builds towards a community, right? And enhancing the power and umbrella of inclusion, right? Which I think a lot of people are talking about now, especially given the way that the world is. And I think Boom also mentioned in in his show notes that this comment comes right in the midst of all the sort of console war discussions that still carry on, right, as he says, right, to this day, right, even though the consoles were launched like nearly almost a year ago, and it's and these sort of disagreements that we see, whether it's on social media or other platforms, it's just one of many daily topics that sort of sorry, my voice is going. It's too early in the morning for me. The sort of daily topics that humans disagree on, and they all seem to come, sort of end with a sort of negative connotation or outcome, right? And simply it's because two people or even two nations, for that matter, have a different belief or opinion. And as I say, is that when I see what Boom and Cory were sort of messaging, right? And not just Cory, and perhaps there's quite a few visible creators out there, right, in the gaming industry. I'm just not well versed in it. And what they're showing, that it's possible to liberate your intelligence, beyond your preferences in terms of gaming consoles, your education, your allegiances, beliefs, prejudices, and educational programming, as I like to call it, and the vast sort of levels of shallow and trivial sort of accumulated knowledge that people have, which is often seem to be wielded by very sharp people or minds, but very naive intellects, right, at the same time. And I think that's like a major reason as to why there's lots of division and discrimination in society, and it's getting worse. And to an extent, it's sort of sad, puny, and trivial, right? And that's why I kind of stay away from social media these days, unless I'm doing a show or looking for the notes. And I say this quite a lot, but unlike your phone, Xbox, or even your PlayStation, your mind doesn't come with an instruction manual. And there are many more sort of dimensions to the mind and how you can use your intellect, right? And we just haven't discovered all the dimensions of the mind. And basically, for me, there are two types of people out there that I find, right, on social media, not good or bad, but I would say joyful or miserable, and the various sort of connotations that stem or flow from there. So to sort of answer your question, well, it's your question now, Archimedes, you asked it. Yeah, I think it's really good to see Cory, express and embody joy. So yeah, I think everyone's looking forward to Halo. And you?
Yes, sure. We all are. No, I thought I was really happy to see that, because we have seen a lot of Microsoft executives come out on social media and congratulating the Sony studios when they launched successfully a game. And now we kind of see that also from the Sony side, and I love that. We have seen Herman Hulst come out and congratulate Double Fine for launching Psychonauts 2. Yeah, now we have seen Cory Barlog coming out, being excited about his Xbox and the.
I think I'm back, guys.
He's back.
So,
you lost your power. Oh,
yeah. So listen, real quick. I don't know how long I could maintain the show on a phone. Last night at 11 o'clock, we were getting bombed yesterday with storms. Let me see if I can even get myself more into the camera here, because this is terrible. This is as unprofessional as Boom has ever done in my 4-year career of doing YouTube. I must sound terrible, and if I do, I apologize. But circumstances, act of God kind of thing. We got clobbered here with 8 inches of rain. Lots of damage, trees down. We didn't lose power last night, but I did lose power now. So if you guys can hear me well, let me know in the chat if I sound terrible. If I sound terrible, then we'll cut the stream. But if not, we will continue the show, and this will be probably the worst. The worst show that I've ever done.
Don't worry. We understand you. We understand you well. I think this is no problem.
Okay, so you know what? Yeah, people are saying that I sound good. Listen, thank you so much for understanding. First of all, I want to thank my two co-hosts. You guys picked up the ball. I fumbled it. Con Ed did. Con Ed and Cablevision, because F them. And I get it. I mean, there's a lot going on, and Boom's podcast isn't Channel 7 news, but hopefully I will get my power back before tonight so we can actually live. And we'll get internet service, and everything is still down. But with that said, I want to continue on. Whoever was speaking next, please continue your point, and I'll back end it with what I think of Cory.
We just started with the first topic. You picked up about Cory Barlog picking up his Xbox Series X and being excited on Halo Infinite. And Vijay already elaborated very well on that. That it's great to see that these executives are also not just competitors; they are also gamers. They are fans of each other's platform, and I really like that. And we've seen that now, and now I want to continue my point as well. That a lot of the PlayStation executives also come out now and congratulate Xbox for the Herman Hulst on the Double Fine launch, Psychonauts 2 launch. Now Cory Barlog is excited about Halo, and it's great to see, and it just shows you also how ridiculous sometimes these hardcore fanboy discussions can be. Actually, it's these companies. Yes, they are competitors, but in the same time, they are all working towards growing the entire industry and not just their own business. Because if they grow the industry, they all win, and that's great to see here. That now that Xbox has games, finally Sony is also coming out in public and congratulating and talking about the greatness that Xbox brings here in the gaming industry, and I really like to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, Archimedes, and to what VJ was, because of course I was listening in the background as pacing back and forth, waiting for my internet to come back on, waiting for the power to come back on. What I love about Cory, I've had a chance to interact with him. I mean, listen, I don't know him, and he probably doesn't even remember who I am, which is fine. He's, he is who he is. He's, the creator of the last God of War, which was a masterpiece. 2018's God of War won a huge amount of awards, and for good reason, folks. And I know this isn't a PlayStation podcast, obviously the Xbox Factor podcast, but I thought it would be pretty interesting just to highlight what it means to be a gamer. And for Cory, who is the head of Sony Santa Monica, he holds a tremendous position within the PlayStation ranks. He's highly respected by his peers. To have him go out there and show his excitement by taking a snappy of his Xbox and talking about Halo. Listen, at the end of the day, folks, I get it that for a lot of folks, there's a line drawn in the sand, and if you're a PlayStation guy or gamer guy or gal, we like you, we don't like you. I play on everything. I don't have to talk about PlayStation, to say that I'm a gamer. I play that console for their first party. That's what I love about it. It's what I love about Nintendo. But Xbox is where I lay my head at night. But it's really refreshing. I actually have that in the notes specifically to see Corey get out there and not only, tell the world that he's excited that he got his Series X, because, I mean, for him to have to wait this long to get one just goes to show you how hard it is. And the fact that he's excited for Halo, folks, he was probably playing Halo while he was in grad school. You know what I'm saying? So he's coming back home, and like I said, I thought it was nice. It was nice for me to respond to him specifically and say, "Hey, Corey, welcome to the Xbox family." And of course, you read what I said, and I thought it was, for me, like I said, as black and white as this community wants you to think that it is. It's not. There are a lot of levels and colors to how people game, where people game. And it's perfectly okay to have a system that you love the best. Xbox is, for me, that system. PlayStation, when a game comes out like Horizon, and I don't want to make this into a Sony show, and I don't want to lose the viewership, but like Mr. Badbit put something on Twitter. Obviously he's no longer with the show. And we love you, Joe. We miss you, and I owe you your next game I'm buying, because I'm always saying bangers, and I said it again. But he was complaining that he was unable to get the collector's edition for Horizon Forbidden West. So I was like, oh, wait a second. As I'm preparing for today's Xbox show, yes, Boom did in fact get through. I don't know how. I don't know why, but I got my collector's edition. I'm very excited about that. But again, I get, when the Xbox drops the ball, we'll give it to them. When Sony drops the ball, we will do equally giving, and same thing for Nintendo. But again, small topic. Want to congratulate you two gentlemen for carrying the torch while I was down and still remain down. Anything now, you guys want to add about this?
But Boom, one question. Can you see the super chats? Because there were a couple of super chats coming in.
Yeah, you know what? Let me
Otherwise,
see if
I'll read them out. I don't know whether you can see them on your phone.
Yeah, I got them. Well,
you got them. Okay.
The last one that I can see is from our generous friend Raiden Blade, who leaves a lot of super chat. Raiden, thank you for being here, brother. He drops a £2 super chat and says, "Boom, not a problem." Thank you so much for that. We also have a Safe Space Invader. Welcome to the show, brother. Nice to see you in the chat. He drops a $2 super chat and says, "Boom, you're back." Enough said. Well, thank you for that. That's very kind of you to say. Raiden Blade drops an additional £2 super chat and says, "Boom, to sing that song, Frozen." LOL, not really. Yeah, folks, you don't want me to sing because I am horrible. Chaos Mike, generous friend of the show, he drops a $10 super chat, says, "Boom, you're doing good even with the phone. Keep up the good work. What game are you most looking forward to this month of September?" My God, there is actually quite a bit to look forward to. I don't actually have the list in front of me of what's coming. My backlog is ridiculous, and I don't know how you guys like the game. Me personally, I've always been steadfast, straight. I play a game to completion and I move on, because a lot of these games, I play a lot of genres, so the controls are always very different. And I have broken the cardinal sin, if you will, of gaming. And I'm playing currently Aliens Fireteam, which is fantastic. What could you say about? I heard you guys talking about Psychonauts 2, and I gotta tell you, man, wow. There are just, and again, I'm an ex-police officer. I know how mean people can be, but when you are the scope of the conversation, and I'm not going to say who's doing it, because I don't want a flame war. I don't want any freaking problems. But I had put a tweet out a couple days ago when I was playing Psychonauts, and I'm an excitable kind of a gamer. Like, I love screenshots. I take pictures. I post them. I go on social media. I talk about it because I'm a big old nerd like that. So, of course, I had put that a specific shot from in-game of Psychonauts 2 looked like a Pixar game, looked like a Pixar film. And it did, in my opinion, but some people were like, well, it looks more like, a Burton film. Okay, that's fine. But then, of course, instead of people celebrating the game, that now it's on multiplat, by the way, the amount of nastiness that came into the conversation was honestly not to be believed. And I don't like blocking people, folks. Like, it's just, I don't like doing it. I kind of feel guilty. And I blocked 40 plus people that day. I know Wilmy Hood holds the record of blocking. He's like 6,200,000, whatever. I don't like to block people. I usually will mute people, and then I followed it up with the asshole brigade is out in full force. Now, I mean, I don't like to curse on the air, but that's what I wrote. And I read, and man, there are people still, that tweet is still going. I'm like, really? Because I said the game looked like a Pixar film that I should be flamed? Okay, well, you know what? People really do take this stuff seriously, but it's a shame. That's all I'm going to say. But let me just move on to, okay, so we got Smitty Smith, our brother, bringing us back to church. What's up, Smitty? How you doing? He drops a $10 super chat, a $15 super chat, and says, as always, the panel is top notch, but I would like to shout out one of the best chats in the business, and of course, the moderators, also the Book of X. Indeed, we have incredible moderators, specifically, of course, Lethal Papa here, keeping it friendly, keeping it safe, this is a space where you can come and enjoy yourself. Male, female, religion doesn't matter, race doesn't matter, console doesn't matter. We're just all gamers, and everyone, of course, is welcome. But I do want to move on, and I'm still, man, I can't believe I don't have all my services. It's crazy. You know what? I want to move on to a topic that's a bit of it's a bit of a shocker. Again, smaller news scope, so folks, so you're kind of digging the bottom of the barrel here. But I pulled this particular story, gentlemen, from directly from VGC, which is one of my favorite sites. I definitely want to get one of those guys, one of their writers, even one of their people that run the company on this show. I love what they do over there. And of course, I'm talking about the Video Game Chronicles. It's our website that I go to all the time. Same thing with lordsofgaming.net. Same thing with Xbox Era. There are quite a few sites that I go and I use news from. Well, this particular one was an interesting story, and it involved Xbox's Tomb Raider timed exclusive deal. Now, folks, I didn't know this, but apparently it was worth, for that 1 year that they had that game, $100 million is what Microsoft paid to Square Enix to lock that deal down. Now, this information comes to us from a LinkedIn profile of former Square Enix corporate development director Fabian Rosani, the executive who claims to have actually negotiated that deal with Microsoft. Now, Rosani's profile was widely circulated on social media this week once the news hounds of the interwebs got a hold of it. And then, of course, it was taken down, but not before it was archived by many Twitter users. Now, if accurate, folks, the figure offers us as consumers, as gamers, a rare glimpse behind the curtain as to what exactly goes on during these deals. And I kind of, now that's it. And I read verbatim. I got to give them a shout out from VGC. But now, because Xbox Game Pass has become the conversation, it literally is that giant, thick Star Wars book on your coffee table that when people come in and they're sitting at your couch, they're looking because they want to open that book. Well, that is how Game Pass is in gaming. It has become the crux of the conversation, and for good reason. It is the best value in gaming. We as gamers, and again, doesn't matter where you play, but if you take advantage of the $15 a month, or in some cases, if you don't play on PC, you can get $10 a month, you are getting so many games that it is just hard to keep up with. Now, what I want to kind of bring into the conversation, and I'll start with Archimedes on this, and I'll back end it with VJ, because obviously he's going to give us a business perspective. That's why we love having him on the show. Archimedes, when looking at this $100 million deal, you know, a lot of us have always been and I mean, I'll be the first one to admit that I am always the first one. How come Microsoft didn't make said deal with said company to get said game as an exclusive? And knowing that locking up something like Tomb Raider was $100 million, I'm starting to kind of maybe back off on that. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money for a Gear exclusive. If it was a full-on exclusive, I'll drop the dime. But if I'm Microsoft's bean counters, I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. That's where Game Pass comes into the conversation, Archimedes. Now, they don't necessarily have to pay for the exclusivity, but they could certainly pay to get that on their day and date. What are your thoughts on that? Could this be the reason why we've seen Microsoft specifically move away from locking up exclusives to putting them on Xbox Game Pass?
Yes, to make the answer short. The long answer is a little bit more complicated. First, I want to say I'm not 100% sure if these $100 million are true. It just kind of sounds a little bit too high for me for a 1-year exclusivity. For $100 million, you could develop the game yourself. That's I don't know if that number is true. Nevertheless, Boom, we've talked about this a couple of times, that this is something that is really a big change that Microsoft has introduced into the gaming industry. If we look at the previous generation, these exclusive deals were important because that's how the console space has always worked. Yeah, every company does it. Nintendo does it, Sony does it, Microsoft did it. They paid a certain amount of money to lock a certain game down, either as a timed exclusive or full exclusive to your ecosystem. Now, with Game Pass and bringing games day one into Game Pass, Microsoft kind of has changed the narrative, what is important in the console space. Because, let me phrase it this way. As a selfish gamer, I don't have a benefit if Microsoft pays whatever amount of money to lock a certain game out of other systems. If they pay a certain amount of time to play, if they pay a certain amount of money to keep Outriders, for instance, of the PlayStation platform, I don't have a benefit because I play the game anyway on Xbox. But if they spend the money and bring it into Game Pass, I actually have a benefit. And that's why Microsoft has changed the way about how we think about these exclusive deals. I don't have a benefit if Microsoft invests into exclusive deals, but I have an absolutely awesome benefit if they invest into bringing that they want into Game Pass. I don't have to pay 60 or 70 euros for the respective game. Yeah. So yes, I think, or I hope that Microsoft is not spending any more money on these exclusive deals, no matter how much it was with the 100 million. Yeah. I hope that they will try to spend the money to convince third-party publishers to bring their games at launch into Game Pass. We've seen it this year with Outriders, with MLB The Show, with smaller titles, obviously, day one. And yeah, that's where we as gamers get an actual benefit. We don't have anything. Yes?
Uh-oh.
You can hear me? Can you hear me?
What has happened? That is a good question.
Okay, I can hear you. So I don't know whether.
All right, folks.
Can you hear me?
Can anyone hear me still?
Yes.
Yes, Boom, we can hear you.
This is a nightmare.
Boom, we can hear you, but and BJ, I can hear you as well.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
So, but you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Always.
Yes, always. Good. Let's just pick up the ball again and bring it to you, VJ. That exclusivity deal, $100 million, and yes, should Microsoft try to acquire these exclusive deals, or should they just spend the money for Game Pass deals?
Is Boom back? You back?
Yeah,
Boom?
I'm back. And again, folks, this is what a day. I'm gonna look back. I thought for my opening, welcome to Double Barrel Gaming back in November 3rd of when is it? 2017 was awful. This is terrible. But listen, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I heard exactly what you said. And you're right. And I think Microsoft thinks the exact same way. What is going to benefit their gamers? And when I say their gamers, anyone that is subscribed to Xbox Game Pass is going to benefit from said game being on their day and date. Now, I know that I have been many years on the, we should get, Microsoft should get it as an exclusive. But after seeing this deal, and this deal was corroborated with several sites outside of VCG, that this is legit. This is absolutely legit numbers. And Microsoft didn't come out and denounce the story in any way. It makes you wonder why now that they simply just say, hey, listen, we'll put it onto Game Pass for a set amount of money, because at the same time, I don't necessarily know if it's ever going to cost them that much to put it on Game Pass, because people are still buying games. And Phil Spencer specifically has actually talked about that. BJ, I kind of want to go to you next, because you have a very unique way of breaking down business perspective conversations, very similar to this one, because you have seen both sides of the coin in the gaming industry, as well as development and in sales. For you personally, hearing that the Tomb Raider deal that was, lambasted by the gaming community at large, as well as, and more importantly, BJ, the media. The media came out of the woodwork to denounce Microsoft as being these big demons. I don't want to get into what happens now, where all of these sites, applaud Sony when they lock a game 2 years behind cash, and it's acceptable. But where do you fall on? Is it beneficial for Microsoft to no longer do these kinds of deals?
I think if you look at Tomb Raider, let's just touch on that quickly. On a net revenue basis, Xbox bought out, I reckon, based on the number, right? And I don't know if it's true or not. You would say about circa 3 million PS4 first-year unit sales. So I can't remember how, whether it was on PS4 or PS3. I really can't remember, but that gives you an indication, right, based on net revenues on a $60 game. And then I know somebody mentioned Outriders, and from the same publisher. And I guess anyone can have a guess, right, in terms of how many Outriders would have sold on Xbox or Xbox One and Xbox One X and Series X in the first year. And I think the cost is perhaps, a third, maybe, or 3/5 of Tomb Raider. And that's why I said to you at the time, it was a good economic pickup, right, for Xbox to buy it out and just put it straight onto the Game Pass. And they did it because obviously they needed to fill a gap in their content roadmap. And I think if you take even a further step back, right, what a company should or shouldn't do. So I kind of looking at it, from a real macro perspective. If you say something has changed and the former approach is no longer plausible or possible, I think what you're doing then is you're closing the door to potential possibilities in the future. If you say, I don't know, which is the camp that I'm in right now, and I know that people may say, oh, well, why don't you know? I think that those three words are incredibly empowering, because what you do by saying I don't know is you keep the door open to understanding, learning, and more importantly, inquiry, and how past or current strategies can evolve for the future. Because the dynamic or the paradigm shift that Xbox or Microsoft and Phil are bringing into the gaming industry is unprecedented, and we talk about it over and over. But I feel you have to have a broad outlook and take every opportunity on a case-by-case basis, since you can plan extensively in the games industry, but we know how hard development is, right, and how unpredictable it can be. So no one can actually predict the future. So if you take, I think, forgive me if I'm wrong, Boom, but I think the games were The Medium, you mentioned Outriders, and even MLB, which were clear opportunities that I think, Boom, that were identified months and months prior to release, given the foreseeable gaps in the Xbox software roadmap. And that's nothing to be upset about or embarrassed about. It's just the way, the cookie crumbles, bounces. That was just a joke, sorry. Especially if you look at Xbox, who made a commitment, I think, Phil, last year, and everyone was saying, wow, how are they going to achieve this? When he said, look, every quarter or something, we want to have a big game or an exclusive game out. And I can't remember the exact words, so I'm sort of paraphrasing here a little bit. And what they want to have is a consistent and relevant content to keep its new hardware selling through, the trajectory of the subscriber base on the up and up, and more importantly, keeping the subscriber churn to a minimum. Right, those are I think are the short to medium term objectives for them. And you could then say, well, they paid 100 million for this, but then you can point to the Bethesda deal, right, as an example of a shift in strategy and investment, not content with just trying to lock up Starfield exclusively with X amount of dollars, which, let's be honest, Xbox could have quite easily have done as the easy way out. Instead, they decided to spend a large amount and just buy the whole of ZeniMax out, right? So it's a completely different level that they're playing on compared to the 100 million that they paid for Tomb Raider. And then you've got, on top of that, I think the most important for them is the Series X and the Series S as well, hardware sell-through, which they need to maintain, right? And then you've got Xbox's sort of future roadmap, which is accessibility points, right? And forgive me if I'm wrong, for being able to access sort of Game Pass via, not just dedicated hardware, but streaming sticks, mobile devices, and that's all being enhanced by, I think, more and more improved Microsoft servers and so on and so forth. And I've been reading about a little bit here and there. I'm sorry, I'm not that technical. Internet infrastructures, which are constantly improving, and 5G network services across the world, which are coming online. And for me, for Xbox, as soon as they are able to, and probably on a more consistent basis, is bring first party and second party content, right, which doesn't limit their 23 studio, actually enhances them in terms of games that are coming to their hardware exclusively. And as soon as that starts to come online, in terms of quality and on schedule, the more popular the hardware and the service will become, because people will have confidence. And overall, you've got to say the strategy and the plan is pretty solid going forward. And then you've got, with all of that in play, Boom, and with what we can see as the roadmap already, even though we haven't seen what the games look like, but we know what it looks like. It's sort of, everybody on Twitter puts a list together of forthcoming products. You're inevitably going to see growth in the subscriber base. And Xbox will definitely have a very hungry and as I see it, as a very diverse audience to manage. But we know that successful creation and management of good content, and I mentioned sort of development at the top of the conversation, or pieces of content, is extremely complex, unpredictable. It's all ever changing and evolving, like a jigsaw, probably more like a chessboard, right? So as I've said, Game Pass is coming to a point, or is at the point, where, because we've talked about this before, about indie games, right, coming to Game Pass and so on and so forth, where it's now, Game Pass has been around for a while, but now where it used to be a seller's market, given the amount of developers out there at the indie level, in terms of the scope, the cost, and the dev times, because no way, shape, or form am I talking about quality, because the quality is always there. But it's a buyer's market, given the sheer number of volume that Xbox can go at, and we're seeing signs of it already quite clearly. However, if Xbox have gaps in their portfolio roadmap due to sort of the large, extravagant, and ambitious tentpole titles like Halo, Starfield, Fable, and sorry if I have missed out your favorite game, but you get my point, and which require more development time, then I expect Xbox to go out and acquire a title or two for Game Pass for a specific, lackluster quarter or month that they can see further down the road than we can, since we as a community have provided the funds, right, for Xbox to be able to precisely do just that, right, and they're doing it off their own back, and you only have to look at the ZeniMax deal to sort of as a case in point, right, and I would say that's regardless of the fact, and this is to Archimedes' point, right, that games coming into Game Pass, right, regardless of the fact they're on other formats, or if it is faulty formats and launching at $70, say on the PS5, I would say target the games, because whether the game's $70 on PS5 or on Xbox exclusive, it just further sort of, I would say it's a bonus, right? It just further highlights the quality and the value proposition. I think what Archimedes was pointing to. Sorry if I've got that wrong, Archimedes. And in closing, what I would say in regards to numbers, I don't know what the subscription count is at the moment, but if it's like 30 million or whatever we expect it to be, I don't know the exact numbers now, but Xbox is close to bringing in $1.5 billion a quarter, and that's before any other income, I might add, which is probably quite a lot, right? Besides the subscription fees that they're getting in, right? And that should convert to many, if not all, hopes and expectations being met at every turn from here on out, unless something is going terribly awry with the terms of this new business model, which I don't think it is. But I would say that we can expect that, right? Especially if Phil is sticking to a respectful and mutual and reciprocal relationship with Xbox gamers. And I think that's why I hear you, Boom, you, Archimedes, that have been in the ecosystem for far, far longer, and saying this is a completely different Microsoft. The way that they're handling and managing the community going forward, and the promise that they're making, and they're making good on it. I mean, I guess the answer you can all answer that question for yourself, right? Whether it's so or not.
Yeah.
And just to give you a little bit more insight, we talk about, $150 million, what was it, 8-9 years ago now, Boom? I forget the time frame, 7, 8, 9 years ago. Just to give you a little bit more insight, I speak to a couple of publishers, and today they can quite easily earmark $500 million for a project undertaking, right, conception stage, let alone, earmark it for that, and not just for the initial project or term of development, but for succeeding number of years. And it's not a huge amount these days. So spending 100 or 150 million on a game to ensure it arrives on Game Pass at launch, where Xbox has a gap in its schedule, because I agree with Archimedes, they should be self-reliant. They should have, more than enough studios, including their own retro-making game studios, which I know you're a big proponent of, Boom. And especially, Boom, if games like, and I don't mean to hit on Outriders, but if you look at Outriders, it's a game that the publisher took a risk. They spent 4 or 5 years or whatever developing it, and it was at a fair and negotiable price point for Xbox to pick it up, especially if you look at Squaresoft. They were not entirely sure about the title's future performance, so it was a win-win for everybody. And I think it's for Xbox, it's not an easy thing, but they're showing that it's a balancing act on all fronts for Xbox in terms of content and what's going to come online further down the road. And you have to say it's being managed really, really well. And I feel that Xbox and Game Pass, the strategy as a whole, employed by Phil this generation, actually opens up and creates more possibilities rather than reducing or doing away with opportunities. So yeah, that's where I sit on it. I lost it.
Great point. We Boom seems to be back on the regular cam, but he's muted.
Oh. It's like he's on planet Mars and he's like broadcasting directly as the first person to land on Mars and saying, "Hey guys, I'm here."
All right.
I don't know if I answered the question, Archimedes.
You answered it very well, and I'm 100% with you.
Do you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Now we can hear you. Yes, Boom.
You know what? This has been, my God. First of all, I'm unshaven. I look like a homeless person. You can see the white in my beard. The 51-year-old is out. Got to give a shout out to the dynamic duo real quick. I saw that they reached out to me, and how I feel. If I don't answer people, it breaks my heart. Mav from Fun Speculation, and of course his lovely wife Caitlin. Thank you, folks, for being here. Yes, power's back. Internet is back. I'm gonna try and get the gameplay rolling in the background so it doesn't look like a half-cocked, put-together show. Thanks for bearing with me. I normally would have just given up on the show and just been like, you know what, I'm going to take the L today. But it would have been a shame because we do have two amazing guests. We do have a bunch of more stuff to talk about. But yeah, great stuff. And this is why we like having you, VJ, because you go into the minutia of the behind-the-scenes work that goes on, and I love what you guys had to say on it, because I think it's ultra important that, and it honestly proves that Microsoft is leaps and bounds, potentially years ahead of I mean, they're way ahead of Nintendo, but specifically PlayStation, because what it does is, even if a game is a multi-plat, Sony did something that Microsoft has yet to do with their games, and that is raise it $10. And that has really bothered a lot of people in the community, including myself. And no one is happy about a $76.43 game here in the Americas. And if you start to go on the outside of the countries like Canada, for instance, or the EU, it's even more, and it's gross. And this what Game Pass allows Microsoft to do is maybe not spend $100 million on said game, because remember, and folks, I don't have, this is a small podcast, so do I know some big AAA developers? No, I do not. Do I know some medium developers and indie developers? Yes, I do. Have I spoken to them specifically about this in private, which I will mention no names? Yes. And one of the things that automatically jumps off the page is how there is a waiting list to get into Xbox Game Pass. That's saying something, because obviously, like, I don't know who it was that mentioned it. I think it was you, VJ, when you specifically mentioned the medium, MLB The Show, and there was another, and Outriders. 3 very successful cases to push the narrative of, well, Xbox Game Pass is where you want to be, because we have 25 plus million, potentially 30 at this point, 30 million people. Now, I'm not saying everyone is going to get into the conversation to play the games. No, because not every game is for every gamer, but I can guarantee you that you'll try a game that's in Game Pass and you may or may not like it. So, I mean, anything else anybody wants to add while I set up the gameplay in the background?
I think we pretty much covered it. There's just Vijay used the word value proposition. I think that is what hits the nail on the head. Spending money to offer the customer a better value proposition is just the right way to go, and I love that Xbox is going that route.
And that's why I say, Archimedes, is that with more subscribers, a bigger community, it affords Microsoft to take bigger strides and opens up more opportunities for us consumers. It creates more opportunities for publishers and developers, and if Microsoft stick to working really close with the community, which I think they are, especially with the retweeting and the acknowledgement of Song of Iron, I think that the whole ecosystem is definitely a proof in the pudding, as they say, in terms of the paradigm shift that Microsoft is creating with the Xbox and Game Pass and all the services and all the outlets and all the access points going forward in this obviously going to be very competitive next generation of console hardware platform holders and game and streaming services. So I hope I made myself understood there, because I think
you guys were fantastic. And what I want to do is I definitely want to move on to the next topic. And this one is obviously, you saw by the thumbnail, Microsoft has announced that and confirmed their presence at this year's Tokyo Game Show. And what's interesting about that move is not because and again, expectations, folks. We do know that Aaron Greenberg has specifically got out there and jumped, got ahead of the game. And it's something that I'm actually glad that they're doing, because in the past, as much as we love Aaron, and what's not to like about the guy is the fact that he's always out there talking with the community. And years past, obviously we have had him get out there and say, not setting expectations. And the last couple of shows, obviously he's representing the brand. He basically said, temper expectations, and specifically about the Tokyo Game Show coming up at the end of the month. He says this: well, since you asked, and of course he was replying to friend of the show, Logan Meyer, a Logmay92 on Twitter. He says, well, since you asked, at Tokyo Game Show 2021 is a show for our players in the Japan region as well as across Asia. Expect regionally relevant updates, no major reveals or announcements, as our game teams are focused on continuing to ship big releases across October, November, and December. Now, this obviously rolls directly into the topic, but what I have in my notes, as much as we're not going to expect any, studio acquisitions, because I mean, listen, if they were going to buy a Japan studio, that is where you want to make the announcement. Now, he said temper expectations, so it's the Sega joining the fray is probably not going to happen, which we would all love for it to do. But this particular 4-day event, and it takes place from September 30th to October 3rd, will include 44 presenters. Xbox themselves has a 50-minute presentation planned for September 30th, which is going to be going live in Japan at 6 p.m., which is 5 a.m. here in the East Coast and 10 a.m. in the EUs. Now, what's interesting is the quote from Xbox, and they say, jump in and join Xbox as we bring our gaming ecosystem to the world. The confirmation of what they will be showing is something that we're waiting for, and this is how it finishes. We have some exclusive news and content to share at the Tokyo Game Show 2021, and this is going to be on our stage. Now, there is a specific game that a lot of people have been asking for to come to Xbox. It was originally launched on the PlayStation 4. It has made its way over to the Nintendo Switch, and I think that it's almost about time. And again, this is the platform for it, and that is Persona 5. And again, I totally get it's a niche market, niche game, not for Boom. I bought the collector's edition on the PlayStation 4, played it for about 3 hours, and by the time I got to my 7th or 8th train ride, I was like, you know what? This is probably an incredible game, but it's just not for Boom, and I sold it. But you know what? What's interesting is, when you talk about the regions, when you talk about, the EUs and the Americas, where Mexico is another excellent place that has a fantastic fan base. One of the places that has not been, Microsoft has not done well in has been Japan. And if you ever wanted to get into the brain pan of Phil Spencer and get how he honestly takes this personal, not against the Japanese people, how he wants the company to do better, to make sure that they offer more. Here is 2 quotes that I want. I'll go to Archimedes first after I'm done reading. These are directly from an interview recently with Phil Spencer. He says, our market in Japan for Xbox is important to us. Obviously, Sony and Nintendo are both strong Japanese companies who have done a great job. I don't know if we're winning in Japan anytime soon, but the position that we have in Japan today from a platform isn't acceptable to me. And he continues, we're going to do a much better job with this next upcoming launch and not have the gamers there waiting 10 months to launch in Japan like we did the last time. We're going to make sure our services like Game Pass, xCloud, and stuff are there so people will have access to it. And what we have, and again, what has done well that has come over here, specifically in the JRPG type of games and that VJ was talking about, is Scarlet Nexus, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Nier Replicant. These games have done well here. I believe Persona 5 Strikers specifically, which is revered as one of the best versions of the Persona 5 series, should release, but more so, it should release into, of course, Xbox Game Pass. And if you can get on the stage this coming the end of September and tell the Japanese community, hey, we can get you in on the ground floor for $10 or $15 a month to Xbox Game Pass to play on your phones, play on your laptops, play on your tablets, in your cafes, and we have now added Persona 5. It is going to be a big deal. Archimedes, what are your thoughts on their presence? Is it important for Microsoft to be there? And could a big announcement like Persona 5 really take the country by storm?
I don't know about taking the country by storm. I mean, historically, Xbox has a it's
they haven't done well there. I mean,
they haven't done well there. It's been difficult for them, but that's the kind of stuff they need to do to change that. It is the first step of, obviously. Well, now I'm not a big Persona fan, so this announcement wouldn't be for me. Yeah, that doesn't mean that it might not be important. Yeah, that being said, I'm not sure if it's going to be that. I assume that they have more announcements like kind of smaller other Japanese games coming there, and or hopefully something around Final Fantasy. That's also something people are waiting for. But yeah, I would set my expectations rather low here in terms of how big the announcements are. I mean, obviously Persona 5 would be a big announcement, and that's why I wonder if that's going to happen there. Usually these bigger announcements are in a more international show, let's say it like that, because a lot of people in the Western regions also like to play the Persona games. So I'm not really sure what to expect there. I like that Aaron Greenberg, who really comes out now after the May event in 2020, and actually sets expectations right. That really helps, I think, the narrative on social media. You don't see people making stuff up, what to expect. They will announce this many acquisitions or these big bangers or whatever. It really helps to keep the narrative in check. And yeah, well, doesn't mean that we won't get one or two smaller exciting announcements, and I'm looking forward to see what they have to announce to get a foothold in Japan.
I absolutely agree. I listen, traditionally they have failed, and they know that, and which is great, and Phil Spencer knows that. But what is different about this particular generation, even towards the end of last generation, is Microsoft has something that both the bigs don't, and that is cloud gaming. We don't know when don't expect Nintendo to have that for another 100 years. It's Nintendo, folks. They're just not going to have it. But when is Sony going to offer cloud gaming? Well, we don't know. We know that they're using the Microsoft servers, and we know that was a big deal that was discussed for many months within the community. But Microsoft has a super incredible opportunity that, because of price, because of value proposition, because now that they are focusing on getting JRPG type games into Xbox on the platform, specifically in Xbox Game Pass, and again, one of the things that I'm sure if you guys have seen in the chat, let me know if you agree with me or not. We have seen so many Japanese posts, people getting their Series S and posting it on the socials. We've seen tons of that. And that's very exciting from an Xbox fan's point of view, because we're getting more people into the ecosystem, but specifically in a region that they have failed. Now, real quick before I get to VJ, I want to thank a couple of people. 901 the Gamer has become a channel member. Thank you. I'm actually surprised after the shit show that it turned that the show started, and now obviously we're back. But thank you for joining the channel, brother. That is awesome of you. Sean drops an $8.99 or a $9 or £9 super chat. Says, have a good one, Boom. Driving home from work soon tonight's drive. It's going to be his entertainment. Love your shows. Great stuff. Sean, thank you so much for that. Appreciate that very much. Raiden Blade drops a £2 super chat and says, my question is, so imagine how much PlayStation paid for Final Fantasy VII. Oh, I'm sure it was significant, especially when you start talking that it's a 2-year deal. Reggie Mobile 9 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, always a great show. You made it work through all the technical difficulties. Salute to you, Boom, Archimedes, and VJ. Thank you, brother. Definitely appreciate that, Reggie Mobile 9. And Chaos Might, good friend and generous friend, drops an additional $5 super chat and says, we love your mom and pop style of podcast, family friendly. We're not here for top-notch quality. Just glad you didn't take the L and go. Well, thanks, brother. Definitely appreciate that. I tried. I mean, obviously you can see that the money has been turned around. I got a better pewter, and we're running the gameplay, and usually it's nice and smooth. Not so much today, which is a little frustrating, but at least we're back. VJ, you have been to Japan. You have specifically talked about Xbox in Japan on this very show numerous times. Now, the Tokyo Game Show is that region's E3. It may not be big as Gamescom, and obviously it has shrank in size over the years. Back in the days when I used to import practically everything, Tokyo Game Show was the spot. And I still think that it's relevant, to be honest with you. I honestly do. And Aaron Greenberg getting out there on the socials and letting people know, hey, listen, this is what you can expect. The show was made and is being presented for our gamers in this region, which is fantastic, to be honest with you. What are you expecting? And could they make a big splash getting something like Persona the same way they got Yakuza?
I think anything is possible. I think the announcement of Game Pass, I think as Archimedes was saying, now available via a service network provider in conjunction with Samsung, who I think incidentally are a 5G network service / solution provider to KDDI, and which was all supposed to actually have happened in the first half of this year. Perhaps that's high on the on Xbox's agenda, and as per what you said, Boom, accessibility in Japan, where you don't have to buy the hardware, you can access the ecosystem via your phone, and perhaps it'll be free for the first few months. We've talked about that, and how that potentially, depending on how the games are curated, how they're accessible, and how they're localized, may in turn, produce a generation of consumers that perhaps want to have a better experience than that, where they may not want to buy a Series X because they're happy playing games on their phone, but just want an enhanced experience, may well go out and purchase the Series S. And if you're sort of like in between a hardcore gamer and a mobile gamer, and you want a big screen experience, I think there's no better device in terms of price, and with the guarantee of loads and loads of future content coming from 23 plus first party and if you add on second party studios coming to the system. Anyway, the marketing spiel aside, and Microsoft can make all its donations it wants to this channel, I'd really appreciate it. And look, I mean no disrespect, but I'm not so familiar with Persona 5 Strikers. I'm kind of looking at what lies beyond that, because in Japan we know that Microsoft have continually, or Xbox even more so in terms of what we're discussing, have been behind the 8 ball, to use an American terminology. And for me, there's always been many opportunities in Japan beyond the usual suspects we often discuss, right, over here, over in the West. And my reservations, as I've said many times before, is that based on what I'm aware of, I'm not entirely certain the people entrusted in the US that then lean on the people that are over in Asia Pacific are more and more so in the Asia Pacific region are sort of brave enough or prepared enough to stick their proverbial necks out, right, and show Phil what's possible beyond the common veil of opportunities and brand names that we discuss. And it's not just Japan. I know Japan and Asia, and we were talking about Wukong last week, right? And China has massive gaming shows as well. And TGS is just ingrained in us, right, as part of pop culture. I mean, there's shows in Singapore, in China, in Hong Kong, where hundreds of thousands of people go out and looking for Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo and whatnot. So, but I know that for us in the West here, Japan is a sort of, how can I put it, like an evocative or emotional designation, right, that Phil likes to use to get the enthusiasm and PR buzz rolling amongst gamers and the industry at large, right? Always keeping an eye on that, is that when is Xbox going to arrive in Japan in a meaningful way? And we're all waiting for that. And with Game Pass and accessibility and all the mobile devices that we've talked about, with Samsung being having the most installed handheld devices or handheld and television devices in Japan, more so than even Apple, right? In terms of being across the board. So the opportunity is there. However, I want when this presentation happens, I want Xbox to talk a little bit about their plans for Asia Pacific region, not just Japan. And I understand that Japan is the kind of nexus or central, outreach point where everything else will stem from and sort of flow from, right, in terms of all the other countries and the outreach in the Asia Pacific realm. However, for me, the overall answers, what we might come to learn about in terms of the presentation, as you've noted, Boom, in your question and commentary before posing the question to us, was it's going to be surrounding Game Pass, xCloud service providers, a few more Japanese pop culture IPs gracing Xbox, perhaps even Judgment, right? Considering that the sequel's coming out next month, how a brilliant way to get people into the franchise, right? By putting the previous game, which was out in 2018, almost three and a half years ago, into Game Pass, right? And they're obviously going to announce new partnerships and obviously, the usual sort of strengthening of current relationships, which we saw some of that last year, right? With Square Enix, with Balloon Wonderland and so on and so forth. But as I say, I know that there is much more Xbox could do in Japan, but they won't see it, or we won't see it, unless we go to Japan and unless Xbox, I suppose, should go there and spend a considerable amount more time integrating their VPs into the gaming industry. I know that Phil and Sarah and other people go out there, for their annual meetings where, you sort of bow, shake hands or flash a smile, perhaps, share an expensive meal and come away commercially lining up beneficial deals, to sort of fortify your position in the West and the trajectory of your business objectives domestically and overseas. For me, doesn't entirely cut it for me. There's got to be a better approach and a more strategic approach, a long-term approach. And because the one that I've just mentioned, it happens in all corporations, right? And it just affords okay results. And if you want proof of the pudding, you only have to look back on the last 20 years, right? Where Microsoft have sort of dabbled their toe, right, so to speak, is nowhere near in terms of the investment that they've made into the Western studios and into ZeniMax specifically. So I think there's a lot more to do out there. And I'm not saying that Phil needs to take, Steve Jobs approach where, who no, I mean, it's a good case in point, who first and foremost was who he himself embraced, various Asian cultures, right? And was first and foremost seen or recognized and adopted by Asian countries as a long lost son, born on the wrong side of the hemisphere. So I'm not saying everybody can achieve that, but it should give you inspiration, Boom. And what I'm saying is that there's a way to. I've spent a lot of time in Japan and China, and both of those cultures, there's a way to embrace and be embraced by Japan and Asian cultures and capture the hearts and minds and imagination of the Japanese consumers and the business people, business leaders, I should say, out there, and earn their trust and respect for the long term. However, I still don't clearly see, and it's probably because I'm blind anyway, see anyone at Xbox who has the desire, strength, and humility to really make that long-term generational difference, Boom, in those territories, beyond improving on the success of just the Xbox 360, and because that had potential at the time, right? But not the possibilities that are available and affordable to Xbox today. I mean, they're vastly improved now. I mean, it's incredible, right, how much we've moved on in terms of technology. And I'll talk about Xbox 360, and perhaps they're looking at the success of Xbox 360, and perhaps a little bit more given the outlets that they've got, right? And they may look at that and say, that's success enough for Xbox and Xbox Series X and S and Game Pass. But for me, it's not. My concern is that opportunities always exist, whether they're of different dimensions, awareness, and they're always of varying magnitude. And I'm just worried that the approach that they have right now, that those may be overlooked, Boom, and maybe missed and forgotten forever. And again, we're looking back at, in 5 or 6 years' time, at what possibly could have been. And I'm just to close up, because I know I'm rambling on here, and I hope that I'm completely wrong, Boom. At the end of the day, I just want to point this out, because I think it's important just to recognize it. Maybe it's already been dealt with, but I think it's just an important point to highlight, right, in terms of where we can improve. Because if you can look at where you're weak and then strengthen that, it only makes the company stronger. And I can only go on what I've observed, right? And it's not a belief or anything, because a belief in itself can sometimes be delusional and dangerous approach, right? And we've seen that many times in the world over, in all aspects, right, in all walks of life. But I hope that Xbox is listening to your show, and I look forward to the event, and I hope that Xbox event dispels all my current observations, right, and reservations, I should say. And I think it's about time Xbox brushed up culturally with renewed vigor and personnel and energy, right, and put together a winning strategy and implement that into the Asian region, rather than just sort of tiptoeing around the issue and parading it as an annual PR event. And that's just my take on it. I can go on and on and on, Boom, but I'm just
no. I mean, listen. I know. Listen, you don't never consider yourself to be long-winded. My wife says it about me all the time, because I like to talk. I could talk all day long, and you know what? You bring a tremendous amount of points to the conversation, ones that most people do either look over or look under, and that's why we love having you on the show. So never feel like you're rambling. You brought it as always, but I am going to say this: what I am expecting, and this is my personal expectations. I'm putting them up there. Now, have I been wrong before? Ridiculous amounts of times. Never have a problem saying I'm wrong. Never have a problem saying I'm sorry. Listen, that's just the man that my father and mother made when I was born. I'm honorable. I understand that, you can, sometimes lead with the heart. And I'm going to say this, and I know people have already been saying it into the chat. I think that if there's any one specific time in 2021 that you got to walk out on stage, because Phil's going to be there, you got to bring Kojima up with you. That has to happen. I don't care if we get a CG trailer. I don't care if we even get what the hell the name of the game is. But you got to walk up on stage. You got to have Phil get up there. You got to have the confident Phil that we know and love, the Phil Dominus Maximus Aurelius Spencer that we all know and love, and say, I want to bring up someone that has officially signed on with Xbox to bring his exclusive wares and his imagination to the millions of Xbox players. And Kojima-san, please come up. You have to do it then. It has to be world-breaking news, and that is where you need to do it. I mean, I know there's a lot of people like, oh, yeah, Kojima's overrated. You know what? If you think so, I think on you.
I think you're right, Boom. They, as I say, is there a more opportune time right now in Xbox's history to go to Asia and lay down a marker? I think not. I think the time is absolutely perfect. Timing is absolutely perfect. And whether it's Kojima, Sakaguchi, whoever, right? It's even bring Ken Kutaragi out of retirement. I don't mind.
Yes. Let's do it.
Just go out there and set your stall out as best as you can. You showed the level of investment and intent that you've got for the Western markets. Now do the same in Asia, because let's be honest, the Asian market isn't exactly small, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not. I'm laughing because Z Black Rider, generous and good friend of this show since the inception of Double Barrel Gaming, says somebody got to buy Phil a suit. You know what? I don't want to see Phil in a suit.
No.
I want to see him wear a T-shirt because I have only one suit, folks. I'm a T-shirt guy. I'm a T-shirt and jeans and sneaker guy. I had to wear a uniform for 21 plus years, and I said, F. I'm not doing that anymore, and I wouldn't wear a suit either. I'd wear a T-shirt. I'd wear a cool Atari T-shirt or a ColecoVision T-shirt, some OG stuff, because I'm an old man like that. But I do want to back end now, folks. We're nearly at the 90-minute mark. We do have half an hour of show left, and specifically, this is a topic that I'm excited to talk about. And until it happens, folks, until Boom gets his Banjo Kazooie, I'm not going to stop talking about it. God damn it, I'm going to will it into existence. Now, here's my pitch, folks. Okay, and obviously, I'm going to go to Archimedes first because he said something that was interesting in the DM, which I knew, and I still am going to try and will this into existence. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I'm going to say this. Here's my pitch, folks. With Psychonauts 2 showcasing so well within the industry, it is going to be considered by many, including this man right here, as one of the darlings of 2021 for a multitude of reasons. And being Xbox first party has nothing to do with it. It has to do with a game that almost wasn't. Okay, the story behind the purchase of Double Fine and what that purchase did for Tim Schafer, who I'm a huge fan of, and that incredible amount of talent over on Double Fine Productions is not even at the crux of the conversation, right? This was a crowd-funded game, folks. Okay, this game almost never saw the light of day, and we are fortunate enough to be experiencing it. And because of the prowess, if you will, that is Microsoft or Xbox Games Studios, they were able to do the extra work needed. And I'm going to tell you this right now. And listen, if you get insulted by what I'm about to say, then you are definitely a part of the problem of the nasty, toxic community. If you're going to try and go out there and say that there is anything wrong with Psychonauts, then you are straight up an effing fraud. And you should be blocked, muted, or whatever. This game is a masterpiece. Whether you play it on your PlayStation 5, which is really the PlayStation 4 version, or you play it in the best place to play, and that is on the Xbox Series X. I've posted pictures, videos. I had gameplay running the other day. The game is a modern-day platforming masterpiece, and nothing else can be said about it. The writing is genius. The graphics on screen are beautiful. Whether you consider it to be a Nightmare Before Christmas-esque type of graphics, or like myself, I really thought I'd like to compare it to Pixar, but both comparisons are good. Here's my pitch. Now, right now, the studio, Double Fine Productions, as of today, has 88 people. That's an indie-esque studio, but maybe consider double A, right? Maybe even it's single A, double A, but their talent, straight up, like Archimedes said in his opening, is triple A, no questions asked. Now, thanks to Archimedes talking behind the scene, we do know that in 2020, specifically, the head of studio was asked if their next game was going to be a sequel or a new IP. And he said a new IP. Tim Schafer specifically said that. But here's my pitch. Right now, we know that Rare Ltd, Rare Studios, they do not want to go back into the past. Now, that's their choice. Microsoft is a studio that wants their creators to be creative in the way that they find it best suits the studio. That's why they're not pushing Rare to go out and make a new Banjo Kazooie. But after seeing Archimedes, what they did with Psychonauts 2, I know that they're working on a new IP. I know that there are several people in the community like, listen, don't have one of your studios do Banjo Kazooie. But I think that's a mistake. I'm not saying that they're wrong. My personal opinion is that is a mistake. You do not want to siphon a brand as important as this to someone outside that you may or may not trust like you would your first party. Should or could potentially Tim Schafer and that amazing team bring us a new Banjo-Kazooie? Maybe not next year, maybe not the year after, but would you like to see them take on the franchise, Archimedes?
Well, not an easy question to answer because, see, the thing about Banjo and Kazooie is the game is 23 years old, and let's be honest here, there only has been really one really good entry in the series, and it was the first one on the N64. The others were okay, but never met the same quality like the first one hit, in my opinion. And now the thing is you have that extremely talented studio in Double Fine. They are playing now in the AAA league, yeah. And do you want that kind of talent to be locked to a certain IP, or do you want them to go out and do what they want to do? So that's really the thing. If they want to do a Banjo, they would do it. They have the opportunity now. I don't think Microsoft would say, no, you're not allowed to do it. But I rather prefer the approach to let them do what they want to do, because obviously they know what they are doing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So that doesn't mean I don't want to see Banjo Kazooie coming back. Now, I've thought about this multiple times. The thing with Banjo really is, again, it's 23 years since the original game. And a lot, almost 2 generations grew up without knowing what Banjo and Kazooie actually is. But on the other hand, we have a certain lack of a certain type of game in the Xbox portfolio, and that is that kid-friendly franchise.
Yes.
We kind of have that now with Psychonauts, but this is, let's say, child-friend-ish. It can be really tough at some point. Yeah. So I don't know whether I would count that in that, but we need that simple platformer, that Mario, the kind of style of game. That we have that is just missing in that really diverse portfolio, and obviously Banjo would perfectly fit in there. So who would I like to have do that? Actually, I would love to see Rare do it again, because let's face it, something is up with Rare. They had a great game with Sea of Thieves, but kind of the games before that were not on the same level of quality that we knew Rare for, in the N64.
Well, they kind of maybe dropped the ball with Everwild. They were making a game
exactly. That's what I wanted to get to now. Please, what is going on with Everwild? We heard about the rumors that the game was restarted earlier this year entirely from scratch again. So that's why a lot of people assume that game won't come out before 24, 25. I don't know what's going on there at Rare, but Rare was the studio with these great IPs. I mean, we had obviously GoldenEye. Perfect Dark is now being remade again, or rebooted again. Not remade, pardon me. Rebooted again, they had Banjo. They had Donkey Kong. That was awesome. Jet Force Gemini. So many great IPs that they had. And let's get Rare back to what they were. Take one of their best IPs, which is Banjo, and let them make the game. That is where I would love to see Banjo coming from.
You make a lot of sense. Real quick, I'm going to shout out. Let me see if I could find it. Curry Cosmos, good friend of the show, says Playtonic is X-Rare is packed with X-Rare developers as well as ex-Microsoft developers, and I agree. I'm right there with you. I've actually beat that drum a significant amount of time simply because if they loved working on Banjo Kazooie so much that they made a spiritual successor, in their own right, which was great.
Yooka-Laylee,
yes, Yooka-Laylee was. I backed that in Kickstarter, dude. Like day effing one. Now, I'm shamefully enough, I didn't have enough money at the time to back the N64 looking version, which is what I really wanted. That it came with like the cart, which is dope. But yeah, I mean, again, that's one of those studios that I think Microsoft could potentially talk to and do that like second party. Hey, listen, we want to contract you to do it. Now, maybe they have spoken to them, and we don't know, right? We don't know the inside business aspects of what they're going to announce. But when you talk portfolio, and I want to get VJ on here, and we'll get everyone out of here before the 2:00 hour. Is there are two particular franchises, two X-Rare franchises that I have been clamoring for, and I'm not the only one. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Killer Instinct 2 proper needs to come back. I don't give a flying F who does it. That game's got to come back in a big way. The fighting genre is something they do not have. Sony has that genre wrapped up, to themselves. And of course, the kid-friendly games. Now, you can say Psychonauts, is kid-friendly. That's debatable. But the Mario type, the Crash Bandicoot type, they don't have that. Who has that? Well, I mean, we know Nintendo does. Depending on who you ask, Sackboy for the PlayStation 5, which was great, and of course, Astrobot, another one. They're making a full-on Astrobot game. Yes, please. I'll be playing that day one. I loved it. I loved Astrobot so much that I platinumed it. Okay, so Sony has a couple of platformers that represent the brand. Microsoft does not, and it's not like they don't have one. They do. Banjo Kazooie, even though the game is 23 years old, does not mean it should not come back in a big way. Real quick, Space Davikin drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, Mr. Boom, I like where you're going. Their Banjo needs a fresh start, something bold and not necessarily better graphics. I think Schaefer is the guy. Yes, I'm right there with you. But VJ, let's get your opinion on the whole after experiencing and seeing the incredible way that they handled a 16-year-old IP from the OG Xbox and brought it back in a big modern way. Do you think that Tim Schafer and those 88 people over at Double Fine could potentially bring us an incredible story-driven, fun family game for, of course, Banjo Kazooie? Would you want to see them use that talent, or do you want to see someone else make it?
I think the short answer, I'll give you a long answer as well if you want it, but I think I think the short answer is, if Tim, when Microsoft picked up a Double Fine studio, I think they were already, it's probably earmarked to make Psychonauts 2, and they've done delivered, and they're at a point where I don't want to talk about how great it is and everything. I want to talk about the studio in a second. Is that they're in a position now whereby is Tim a fan of Banjo? I'm sure he is. Number two, they're in a position where they can throw their ring in the hat and pretty much do whatever they want, given the success of universal success or of Psychonauts 2. So I think that's a given. What would be really interesting, because I don't play Smash Brothers, but it would be really interesting to know the engagement or the download, because I don't remember. It was Banjo Kazooie like a DLC, was it for Smash Brothers?
Dude, the fan base went bananas. Okay. Dude. It's probably one of my favorite videos when I'm kind of feeling a little down and I want to smile from ear to ear. Watch one of those reveal videos, specifically Banjo Kazooie. Yo, the people go crazy for that.
So that what that does from a business perspective is gives you a metric in terms of the engagement and how popular the franchise, or not just the franchise, how popular characters still are. So what I'm saying to you is, like, we've got to kind of build a case for Banjo, because look, I'm like you, Boom. When I played Banjo, I thought it was far better than Mario World. I thought this was the most incredible game I'd ever played at that point in time, and I still have really fond memories of it. And even though I haven't played it, I kind of, whenever I've got space on my hard disk, I just download it because I just like to have the icon in my game selection. So it's just because it just holds such a dear a place in my heart, and that's, I think, is important. If Tim was to say, you know what, let's do this, because if he loves it and he wants to do it, I'm not saying he should or shouldn't, because that's a decision that he needs to be made. But look, so for the long answer. I just wanted to talk about Tim Schafer a little bit, because, and I often allege that too many games look and feel similar. They don't really have any sort of anything unique about them. They don't really stand out, and lots and lots of games come and go, and it's often a blur. But you can't say that's the case with Psychonauts 2. No matter what you think of the writing or the visuals and everything, there are many people out there that are enamored with it, and I'm one of them. And I've talked about Tim Schafer before the game's release, because you actually were very kind, Boom, to sort of lay out a topic about that upcoming game. And I think I said something along the lines of, when I see Tim, and because he came up on stage, right, as he does, right, and he just put everybody else at that event to shade, right, just the way that he's just really nonchalant and confident about himself. But Tim is someone who I think has his sort of finger on the pulse, like all good designers and creators and directors, in the sense that he knows how to fundamentally drive a player's imagination and the need for our discovery, our own personal discovery, and how to drive that fundamentally forward. And especially when it comes to sort of, as Archimedes was saying, right, in terms of humorous storytelling and incredibly imaginative, if not somewhat alien worlds, and he has a sort of, or his team, obviously taking direction from as the creative, has an artistic flamboyance of portraying his vision on screen, and it's fantastic, right? It just puts a huge smile on your face, and look, if the game doesn't put a smile on your face, you're obviously a very miserable person. But I don't want to point out, make any accusations out there, Boom. But anyway, and look, if you haven't guessed from what I'm actually saying, right, I really enjoyed my time with Psychonauts 2, and I think Double Fine and the directors there and the authors of the game that worked obviously alongside Tim, and obviously credit to Phil and his team for picking these guys up and housing them in a stable environment to be able to produce what they've actually come out and produced, compared to a lot of studios out there that are constantly delaying games, regardless of the size of the studio. 88 people is still a lot, and that's probably not even, we don't know how much they've actually outsourced, right? That could be a considerable amount more people, right, to help them to refine the finished game that we're playing, because games that don't pop out of thin air. But what I'm saying is that over, I can't remember how old the studio is, 20 odd years, but still to remain relevant and maintain that creative exuberance that he showed up on the stage, the passion and the spritefulness, and basically all the ingredients, right, that you need, right, in order to make good or even great content, right. And obviously, my note, just on a side note here, I haven't completed the game. It's just based on how much time I've spent with it so far, right? My experience thus far. And Double Fine, for me, in terms of Psychonauts, and again, it's open for discussion. Everyone will have their varied opinion. I seem to have cracked that combination of whatever they were striving for and what the audience as I would say, from what I've sort of seen and read, which is obviously a very narrow amount, but it's been ultimately really well embraced, I would say. And I would say that Double Fine, as I say, who have been around for 20 odd years, and for me, what I see is that that they have got members in that team. They've got the glue and enablers that exist within this team to sort of hold everything together, and they should be credited, especially for the number, given 2 decades. And they've done it on, as far as I can see, on a very consistent basis. And it's a rare and commendable, pun intended there, obviously. And for me, it's a really good sign in terms of what the future holds for the studio in its essence, right? And if everyone is wholeheartedly, and what it seems like to me, and what you can see from this game is sort of dedicated to their individual processes, no matter what your position or output, as long as it's contributing to the whole project. That's what's most important. But I will say this as well, is that more so than talent and dedication, is what, when I play this game, is what I see is that a team that's devoted, and devotion is a more important factor in the possibility of a well-planned game going on to be a great game, more so than talent, right, and dedication. And Psychonauts is a really good example of this. And often we may do shows and so on and so forth. You see everyone get excited when recognized creatives and are hired from rival studios, and then they join Xbox or Nintendo or Sony, and yeah, of course, yeah, they are decorated or recognized professionals, appointed to sort of key position as leaders at the opposition. But first and foremost, regardless of your ability in that level or that sort of high level ranking position, you have to be one of the best teachers out there, first and foremost, for me. And that's the vibration I get from observing and listening to people like Tim Schafer and Joseph Staten, that have been in the industry for so long, right? And that are embraced. And when they come on board to a project, you just see, that they're able to kick everyone up a level, right? Not just by shouting and screaming at them, just because of, the energy and the way that they handle themselves, right? Look, I can't say for sure, because I've never met either of them, but they give me that impression, especially if Phil is then on top of their abilities, allowing them to go out and flourish and enjoy themselves. Obviously we talk about, completely hands off, creativity, right, with complete freedom, but it's always obviously within sort of semi-flexible, sort of pre-agreed boundaries, of course, right, where where concessions or amenable concessions can be made, right, either way during the development journey, because it's never entirely goes the way you want it to, right?
That's true. Very true.
And I probably haven't answered your question, Boom, but I actually don't know what Tim will work on next. He's probably resting up somewhere on the beach in between Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd somewhere. I don't know, but and it's well deserved. You'd have to say it's well deserved, with his feet up in a cocktail, and whatever you hope, desire, or wish for. And I always open with those sort of words when I talk about something that's going to happen in the future. I want to kind of just say, leave it to Tim, and I'm sure Banjo or otherwise, he will come out and surprise us, and he won't disappoint, especially if he plans on sort of getting all of his team and everyone in the studio devoted to whatever the next project is. And I think that's really key. It's not just down to Tim, it's to the whole team buying into it, right? And I will say, regardless of what they work on, and obviously I'd love to see the announcement that they're doing Banjo. I think it'd be a massive announcement, Boom. But I think what more so for me is that if Xbox go out and pick up more creators in the mold of Tim and what he stands for, that would be really, really nice. And I just wanted to just wrap up, and something just popped in my head, if you don't mind, is just to sort of bring the previous topic back into the frame in regards to opportunities in Japan. And the ones that we don't know of, there are studios and creators in the mold of Double Fine and Tim that exist in Japan, that can produce brilliant games like Psychonauts 2. That for me would be a dream come true. And I would be looking to that's how I would be looking to grow, Xbox's footprint in Asia and across Asia, and obviously, especially Japan, right? So anyway, that's me done, Boom. Sorry.
No. I mean, listen. Obviously, Cotton just jumped in. Cotton, we're just about to wrap it up, brother. Sorry. Yeah, no issues. We'll get you definitely back for your full and proper introduction next week. But folks, listen, thank you so much for hanging out. We had over 300 people here, even during the power outage that I suffered, and was podcasting from the phone, which is something I do not like to do. But obviously, you stuck with us, and thank you so much for that. Of course, I want to thank all the super chats and that have come in. The new channel member that joined today. I cannot thank you enough for the financial support, because obviously Mrs. Boom and I, we kind of flipped that and turned that around into giveaways. We did one on Tuesday. We gave 10 $25 gift cards away, which comes to $250. So you can go, 10 members of the community can go out and buy, and hopefully buy and support Joe Winter on with Song of Iron. Real quick, as we before I do the outros, we do still have 4 people that have not reached out to me, and I'll read their names again. Joe Dunmore, good friend of the show, Gerald Mack, Pixel Bit G, and Big Bad Mo. If you listen to this on the replay and you're on Twitter, DM me so I can get these get you your $25 gift cards out to you so you can go buy whatever you want, or potentially buy Song of Iron. But of course, I want to thank everyone for being here. And obviously, still staying with the show, even though we were having some major technical difficulties. We don't have them very much, but we did have it today, and thankfully, I got back and you're here. So let's get to the outros, and we'll start first with Boxer Bear. Obviously, you picked up the fumble, and you were able to handle it in the properest manner as well. Thank you so much for that. Tell everyone where they can check out and subscribe to your YouTube channel, but more importantly, check out your incredible review of Joe Winter's Song of Iron.
Yeah, boom. Technical issues happen. Don't worry about it. I know you planned it differently, but we handled it. It's totally fine. And I think from what I've seen in the chat, people also understood, so don't worry about it. And yeah, people can find me basically everywhere at Boxenberger. Twitter, Xbox, PlayStation, and of course here on YouTube, where I do have my small but growing YouTube channel. I recently, during vacation, actually, I passed the 4,000 subscriber mark.
Nice, dude!
Awesome.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. I want to take the opportunity and thank everyone for the support. Really appreciate that. And yeah, for those who don't know the channel, I put out 1 or 2 videos per week where I talk about certain topics of the video game industry, and sometimes I put out reviews of games. Just recently, Song of Iron or The Ascent. So yeah, definitely check that out. And boom, I can't wait to be here next week.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And of course, VJ, thank you for bringing it 100 every time you're on the panel, brother. Tell everyone what you got going on, where people could find you on another podcast, and more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Oh, hi, Boom. Yeah, I'm just on your show at the moment, so I look forward to Thursdays, and it's great to be on at the moment. And I'm just spending time playing games and reading some books, and I'm
enjoying. That's good. Excellent.
Having a whale of a time. Sorry about all the torrential rain you're having over there, Boom.
Yeah, no. Thankfully, it's if you look outside the window now, it's beautiful. It's blue sky, suns are out, the birds are chirping. It's a nice, subtle 70 degrees here. Not so much last night though. And listen, that's life. And of course, Cotton, obviously. We'll definitely get you back here next week for your proper introduction. Obviously, no issues whatsoever. It was a cluster F anyway. Joe Dunmore, I see you in the chat, brother. As soon as I'm done with this podcast and I finish uploading it, I will get you your code and I'll send that on Xbox Live. And of course, that goes for Pixel Bit G, Gerald Mack, and Big Bad Mo. Hit me up. It's at Mr. BoomStick XL is my gamer tag. If you DM me a message on Twitter, I'll send it there. If you hit me up on Xbox Live, I will send it there as well. But listen, folks, once again, thank you so much for sticking with us today. It was a great Thursday. Tomorrow morning's Breakfast with Boom is going to be live at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have Pong Soul joining the conversation. We're going to be talking about the new Dead Space demo that has blown this community away, blown me personally away. I cannot wait to play that. Motive is going to deliver in a big way, and they showed old graphics versus new graphics, and folks, it is like a new game, very similar to what we got with Resident Evil 2 remake, which is what they based their excitement for doing the game on, which is pretty dope. But have a great day. Enjoy gaming wherever you enjoy gaming. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that is important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me with kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.